All right. Good evening. Yeah, the Wheeling people know what to do. Let's have the Bel Air people show them how it's done. Good evening. Yeah, it's so much better. All right. Welcome to the second program of the 2023 Great Stone Viaduct Winter Lecture Series. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, welcome everybody. As always, the library is very grateful to be a partner with the Great Stone Viaduct Historical Education Society to put on this winter lecture series. Last week's program, if you were here, you know we pulled in 112 people for that program. So that's 112 people in the library's doors. So we are so glad to see so many people returning this week. Thank you for being here. We couldn't do this without the partnership with the Great Stone Viaduct Society. So please give them a big round of applause for making this series happen. Okay. So I do have a few quick announcements. Hopefully they're quick before we get started. For those of you who weren't here last week and are new to the library, the bathrooms are just down the hallway here. If you turn left and then another left, the bathrooms are on either side there. The programs for this year are being live streamed both on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you missed last week's, you can always watch the recording online. It is available on our website, the library's website. So if you go to the library's website, there's a link on the homepage to the Great Stone Viaduct calendar event. And then in there's a link for the 2023 series. If you go to that, the video is embedded in the webpage there and you can watch it on our website. You can also go to the Facebook page or our YouTube channel and get it there as well. And then out of respect for our speaker tonight, we do ask that everybody please silence their cell phones at this time. And as I mentioned last week, for those of you who have a library card with us, I want to thank you and encourage you to use it. Our speaker tonight is an author, and unfortunately, her book that she's going to be talking about tonight is already checked out, but we do have a copy of her previous book. We've got 2 copies of them, of this, her prior book. One of them's checked out, but one of them is available tonight for any lucky library card holder. I do have my laptop over there, so I can check it out to the first person who comes over to grab it, and you can take it home for 2 weeks and bring it back. Let's see. And for those of you who don't have a library card, it's very easy to sign up, and then you can check out things like this book and other books and all kinds of other great materials. And it's very easy, it's free, and you can do that upstairs during regular library hours. Encourage you to do that. Last week I mentioned that if you have children or grandchildren ages 3 to 5, we have a great program for story times. It's called Little Bookworms. It's Thursday evenings at 5 p.m. and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. There are brochures on the back table. And we also have brochures on the back table for something that we're an affiliate with. It's called Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. It's a really great program. It gives kids a free book every month. It's sent to their house, and it's free of charge. So all kids in Belmont County are eligible to enroll in this program. So there's lots of stuff back there. There's bookmarks and coloring pages, and also information on how to enroll your kids and your grandkids into that program. And again, they get free books right up until they turn 5 years old. So newborns to 5-year-olds, and it doesn't cost the parents anything. Also, if you're interested in sponsoring a child for that, $25 will get them one child a year's worth of books. So that all that information's on that back table there. And then I usually let Erica talk about this, but next week I'm really excited about this because we're going to have the program is Belmont County Bedrock of Historic Preservation. We've got 3 educators who are also master craftsmen coming here to talk about how the students in Belmont County have restored historic places all across America. And this is the reason why I'm here today, is that I went through one of the programs that one of these people teaches there. So I would not be here in Bel Air if it weren't for that program. So I'm really excited for that, and I hope you all come out to that. And with that, I'm going to pass the microphone on to Erica Keller, who is the chairperson for this series.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And as always, thank you to the Blair Public Library for hosting us every year. It's so nice to have such a beautiful place to have such a great lecture. So we're so excited you're all back with us tonight for our second edition of the Winter Lecture Series. And as she mentioned, we will be back again next week. So please join us next week again. And just a few little things. As always, with the Greystone Viaduct, if any of you are new here, if this is your first time here, we are a historical society. And this is just one of the many things that we do, the Winter Lecture Series. This is our 11th year with the Winter Lecture Series. And it's just something we just take a great pride in bringing back to the community. And bringing adult education and bringing back the historical preservation to our area. One of our great accomplishments this year, if you haven't visited, is our new walking trail in our plaza. And that was a great milestone that we achieved this year. And we are always looking for new members. So if anyone would like to become a member of the Greystone Viaduct Society, we do have membership letters on our table over here in the back. And we would love to have you as a member. And if you do sign up, you will get a lovely free calendar. Yeah. And many more great things. So if you haven't seen this, this is a calendar, and these pictures were taken of our progress in our phase 1 of our construction of the new walking trail. And there's some really beautiful pictures. And who doesn't need a new calendar? There's also a few other items on the back table we have for sale. One of our newest items is our charcuterie board. We also have our new bottle openers, our hats, mugs, lecture series booklets. So if you get a chance at the end of the lecture, if you'd like to check out our table, there's some interesting goodies over there. And so now I am going to turn everything over, and we're going to learn a little bit about murder. So exciting. And I would like to turn everything over to our speaker now and put our hands together. A nice round of applause for Susan, who is going to bring us the Moonlight Mill Murders of Steubenville. Susan Guy, the true crime author.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Susan Guy. This is going to be a short talk, probably the shortest one you've had, because I'm not a public speaker, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first and how I got into writing these books. And then we'll talk about the Moonlight Mill Murders, and there's a short PowerPoint on that. And I was a police officer in Cross Creek Township in Jefferson County for 15 years, and I achieved the rank of sergeant. My father was police captain for 37 years for Wintersville. And I got a job when the prison opened. I was one of the first COs to open up Belmont Correctional Institution. And I retired in August of 2021 with 27 years down there. For 15 years of that, I brought inmates out on a work crew, and a lot of that was down here in Bel Air. I think one of the last things we did was when they were filming Unstoppable with Denzel Washington, we had the crew down here to weed eat around the viaduct. That was one of the last jobs I did before I went into the mailroom after that. But anyway, like I said, I'm not a public speaker. You're about to find that out. Okay. I need to
get you a little closer to the microphone.
That's my fault.
There you go.
Okay.
Just speak right into the microphone.
Okay. Sorry about that. Now you can't see me. Which is good. Anyway, I started getting an interest in writing when I did genealogy. How many here do genealogy? Okay, you understand what I'm talking about, where you start digging into something and you find something and you keep digging. Okay, so that's how I got into wanting to write, because one of my great-great-grandfathers murdered his children and did a few other things. He was a Civil War veteran that had gotten wounded, and he deteriorated mentally. So that was the story I originally wanted to do. I took a writing class with a friend of mine, and through that writing class, I met a woman named Karina Garrison. She's a local author in Jefferson County. We became good friends, and we started a group called the Tri-State Writers Society. And during one of our meetings, we were going to have a meeting at the Jefferson County Historical Society. And she wanted each one of us in the group to write a story on something locally and then read it to the Historical Society. So I was tasked with the digging up something on prostitution on Water Street. So when I started digging into that, all my life growing up, I heard the old saying, if you want to get away with murder, just come to Jefferson County. Well, once I started digging into Water Street, I found out all those stories, why they said that. So that's how the first book, Mobsters, Madams, and Murder, came about, is from all my research in the old newspapers and the old court records. And that's the first book. And it's still doing well after 9 years of being out. The second book came about through the first book's research. I came across the Phantom of the Wheeling Steel. Right now, the steel plant in Steubenville, there's a pilot truck stop there now. They tore down part of the mill. That's where this story happened. So during all my book signings and book talks for the first book, I had people coming up to me saying their fathers and grandfathers worked at Wheeling Steel and there was a killer there. And they wanted to know, are you going to write that story? Because I really want to know about it. My dad talked about it all the time. He was afraid to go to work. So it became a necessity to write this second book about the mill murders. So that leads me to the presentation now. Prohibition had ended in December of 1933. Around that same time is when the mayor of Yorkville had been murdered. And that was the last story in the Mobsters book. After that, everybody in Jefferson County just wanted a return to normalcy. And when Prohibition ended, they thought they would get their return to normalcy. And that was December. In January of 1934, just a few weeks later, someone was shot and killed at the mill. Okay, everybody's jumping for joy. Prohibition ends. Okay, this is how the mill looked at the time of the killings. This is a depiction of the first murder of Fred Melsheimer on the railroad tracks, the mill. He was a train engineer. People saw him get shot in the full moon. It was after the midnight shift had started. Under a full moon, they saw a maniacal figure jumping around, looked like a giant bird, and then it ran off. The police department figured it was a lover's quarrel or something, and they didn't really do too much about the first murder. They didn't know what to do. So this is a depiction of the Phantom Killer at the mill. It was done by a friend of mine named Jimmy B., a businessman up in Jefferson County. I saw him do a pencil portrait of Marilyn Monroe, so I asked him to do some drawings for the book. So that's how I got my drawing. He gave me an 8x10 of this that's hanging in my house. I don't know if that's good house decor, but I love it. So, okay, this is Police Chief Ross H. Cunningham. I've met some of his family, some of his kids after the book came out. Cunningham joined the police department in April of 1922, and just 4 short years later, in 1926, he was asked to be the acting chief when the current chief got fired. His name was Blaine Carter, He was fired for malfeasance, as was the mayor at the time, because nothing was being done about Water Street and the prostitutes. The prostitutes were just hanging off the porch steps, and everything was done in broad daylight, and so they were fired. They were supposedly spotted both coming out of one of the houses. And I have talked to Blaine Carter's grandson. His name is also Blaine Carter. After the book came out, the old chief, Blaine Carter, the disgraced chief, he had gone to Maryland. He's buried there. His grandson wanted to bring his body back and have it buried in Steubenville Union Cemetery next to his first wife. So I don't know if that ever did happen. Okay. Chief Cunningham retired in 1961 with 39 years of service. And he was a good, honest chief. He tried to make the Steubenville Police Department honorable, but it was not, unfortunately. This is Jefferson County Sheriff Ray B. Long. I met his daughter. He was sheriff for a term or two. He was always a deputy sheriff before he became sheriff and after he became sheriff. He was in public life. He served in Wintersville. He was tragically killed in Wintersville on a curve. He had a heart attack, went off the road and into someone's yard, and passed away. Okay. We're not moving. There we go. Okay. Jefferson County Coroner Charles Wells. At the time the first killing happened, his wife was ill and she died during this investigation, but he still made it to work. I'm showing you all the law enforcement that was involved in this at the time. Jefferson County Prosecutor Arthur Hooper. He was a no-nonsense prosecutor. Everything he did, he got convictions. After this case, he ran for common pleas court judge, and he won. And he served in that position until his death in 1970. So that was 33 years on the bench. These two guys, if anybody remembers Highway Patrol with Broderick Crawford, these two guys take you to that time. They were Dignan and Schroeder, two Steubenville detectives. Dignan was the first detective on the Steubenville Police Department. They racked up cases, they solved crimes, they recovered stolen property. They just went at it like two old gumshoes. They wanted this guy real bad. These men, these were the law enforcement officers that gathered together to find this killer. Like I said, at first they were hoping it was just a one-time shot, that some guy got mad because another guy was sleeping with his wife. That's what they thought at first for a few months until it happened again. Then they knew they had a problem. Once again, somebody was killed under a full moon. The Chief Cunningham gave a speech, a public speech about the murders, and he is the one who coined the phrase "the Phantom." So we have the Phantom of the Mill. At the same time all this was going on, I'll give you some background. It's all in the book, and I have some pictures here. John Dillinger had been broken out of the Allen County Jail in Lima. His gang shot Jeff Sarver, the sheriff up there. So all of Ohio, all the Midwestern states were looking for Dillinger. He became the first public enemy number one. He was a catbird. He was a charmer, as a lot of bad guys are. Here's another picture of him. He was personable. Everybody seemed to like him. This is Dillinger in Crown Point, Indiana. After his capture, the lady that you see is the female sheriff from Crown Point. Her husband had been the sheriff and he was murdered by a gangster. So she wanted Dillinger real bad. And she's not looking too happy at him right now with his arm on the shoulder of the prosecutor. All the cops and the prosecutor wanted their picture taken with Dillinger, and he obliged them. And just a day or two later, he carved the gun out of soap and made off with the sheriff's car. So right after this book came out, I always do research on my books, even after I'm done with them. I don't let it go just because I'm done with the book. So I'm looking up Dillinger. I'm looking her up. I was really interested in the female sheriff because I was a female law enforcement officer. So she was not well received after Dillinger had broken out and stolen her car. It was sad, but there were friends of hers that still stuck up for her. It wasn't her fault. I do believe some of the officers in the jail were fired. But anyway, right after my book came out, I think it was the same week, her car had been bought by someone and restored. And it was taken back to Crown Point and put in a parade so the townspeople could see it once again in all its glory. It was restored to exactly the way it was when he had stolen it. So I don't think the guy gave the car to them, but he let them see it. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a good omen that the car was returned and my book came out at the same time. Unfortunately, COVID came out around the same time, so that wasn't too good. But anyway, while they're looking for Dillinger, there was a guy named Charles Arthur Floyd, aka Pretty Boy Floyd, who was also being sought after in Ohio. Now he had his lieutenant in his gang, who I can't remember right now because I'm old, but he lived in Dillonvale. So Sheriff Long was always keeping an eye on that area because he knew Floyd had holed up there a few times. So while this Phantom Killer's doing his thing, there was plenty of other things in the area to keep everybody busy. Law enforcement was very busy. 1934 was the year of the gangsters, the Bonnie and Clyde and Pretty Boy Floyd. Well, during then there was another shooting at the mill. In the meantime, Dillinger had gotten captured and killed. Pretty Boy Floyd rose to the rank of public enemy number one. He was the second public enemy number one. He was killed, as you probably all know, up in Wellsville. Here is his death photo up in Wellsville. Sheriff Ray B. Long, it was during the well, I don't want to give too much away if somebody hasn't read it, but anyway, he was kept busy. He had to go up and he formed a posse to go up to Wellsville to try to get Floyd. And I did a speaking engagement up in Wellsville, and they took me into their museum. They have all kind of Floyd stuff up there if you ever want to go up there. It's pretty nice. And they have benches and stuff along the river. You can sit and eat by the river and the railroad tracks. It's really quaint. But yeah, everything was done under the full moon. My step grandfather, Frank Pompa, he worked at the mill at that time, and his crew didn't want to come to work. They were coming to work with guns in their lunch buckets and homemade weapons and everything. I mean, nobody knew who was going to be next or why it was happening, who was doing it. During a search of one suspect's house, they found articles about the assassination attempt on Franklin D. Roosevelt. Did anybody know there was an assassination attempt on FDR? I found that out while researching this. Okay, the man seated in the chair is Anton Cermak, who was the mayor of Chicago at the time, and FDR sitting on the arm of the chair. During that assassination attempt, Cermak was murdered. They managed to get FDR out of there. This is Giuseppe Zangara. He was the assassin of Anton Cermak. When you read the book, you'll see where they compared the Phantom Killer to him, that they seem to look alike, and I don't know about that, but the guy had a fascination with this assassin for some reason. Okay, he made headlines. Steubenville made headlines alongside Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, Bonnie and Clyde. He was on the front page with them. So Steubenville didn't get any relief from Prohibition stories, because during Prohibition, Steubenville led the nation in unsolved dry officer murders. They had the most dry officer murders in the country, which gave them the moniker Little Chicago. I've had people tell me, and I know from my research, every little town was a little Chicago. They call it every town. Steubenville earned it in the press, and they really earned it, because a lot of those murders, they'll never be solved. And it's a shame, even though most people knew who did the murders. So it was all run by one man and his sidekick. Okay, this is the Phantom. Did anybody read the book yet? You did. You told me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting. I found where he's buried. It's an unmarked grave in between a couple other graves. The guy at Mount Calvary in Steubenville, the cemetery, the caretaker prides himself on knowing where every grave is. And when he tried to show me where that grave was, he couldn't find it, and he got mad. Well, I found it. So he was a little upset. But we know where it is now.
What's his name?
It was David Dasconio, and he Americanized it to Dasco. He had been in World War I. He was actually in the most horrible battle of World War I, which I can't remember right now, naturally. But Sheriff Ray B. Long was also in that battle. And during that time, Dasco had been listed as missing in action. So I haven't found out why he was gone for some time, or the circumstances of when they found him. But that battle was horrific. I had done some research on that, and so I would say that had a lot to do with what he did at the mill. Okay, like I said, it's short. The next book is going to be Unsolved Murders of Jefferson County, Ohio. I've already interviewed some families who've had families murdered, or people in their family murdered. It's going to be a book about murders from the 20s, 30s, and present day, just to keep it in people's minds in case we can solve some of these murders. I'm working really hard with the family of Vicky Riffle-Delusky, who was the nurse that was murdered in Fernwood, the forest in Jefferson County 40 years ago in 1981 while she was jogging. That family's been to my house. We've done some extensive work. I will be trying to interview the Jefferson County Sheriff. Sheriff Fred was going to help me. The old sheriff who just passed away. He was helping me a little bit, so I'm hoping his son helps me the same way. And I'm going to be talking to other local police departments. The county seems to have lost some of the records for some of these murders, saying they're so old. But no excuse. There's no limitations on murder. I'm going to try to be kind when I talk about it, but I'm not too happy. Those records should be kept where they can get looked into. So another murder will be the murder at the Ray Motel in Wintersville. The manager, who had been the Belmont County auditor down here, he retired and moved up there, bought that. He had owned a couple motels down here. And I'm working with his daughter to help solve his murder. He was murdered Thanksgiving weekend in 1972, I believe it was. And Lawrence Purdy. And his wife was right there when he got shotgunned. Yeah, he told a couple gentlemen that there was no room at the inn. So he told them to go down to the Nelson Motel, just down the road a little bit, and they shotgunned him right in the office. And I have to look into that, because that motel had some trailers out back. I was in high school at the time, and I lived down the road behind that motel, so I would always come out there. And my dad was a cop at the time. So I knew that the two trailers behind the motel belonged to Judy Jordan. If anybody knows who Judy Jordan was, she was the madam of the area. I was going to say Jefferson County, but she covered a lot of area. And I remember seeing her girls walk from the trailer to the motel in their negligees. And so I'm thinking that has something to do with it. So, but anyway, are there any questions?
Okay, so the gentleman that you showed us, he's the one that killed all three people at the mill?
That's what they say, yeah.
And what was the motive for him doing that?
He was in the war. I mean, a lot of stuff I looked up, a lot of guys had been in battle. And I think at that time it was called shell shock. And everybody he shot was of German descent. So, but then again, it could be somebody else that, you don't know.
How did they find him? Was he tried? Was he convicted? What became of it?
Yeah. He went to prison. Yeah, read the book. No. Yeah, he was tried, and when he was buried, a woman that had been friends with his family in Italy. She lived in Steubenville. She's the one who paid for his funeral. And I came across that woman's daughter on Facebook, and she didn't know that. She's like, oh, wow. Yeah. So, yeah, the most rewarding thing about doing these talks or just doing book signings is stories that I learn from other people and the stuff they send me on Facebook or whatever, because then I learn something. Anything I learn, like in the mobsters book, I have all the dry officers, the police officers, and the Mingo police officer that was killed. Any police officers that were killed back in the 20s. And I have those in the book. And while their pictures sometimes are hard to find, well, just the day before yesterday, I met the granddaughter of one doing genealogy. I found that police officer's picture. I asked her, can I put that on my Facebook page for the Mobster Madam's Murder page? She's like, oh, sure. Well, then she friended me on Facebook. So now everybody's clicking on that. They love that they can put a face to the picture of that officer, because the police department in there, when they do the honors in May for fallen officers, they didn't have a picture of him. Now they have one. So that's always exciting. That's happened a lot.
How much time lapsed from the first murder until they caught him?
January was the first murder. I think they caught him I think it was in July, and then the trial was in October. Well, yeah, but I mean, he shot somebody else too. So, okay, anybody else?
How long did it take you to write the book? I mean, when you started investigating?
I just love to do the research. I hate writing. I had to, for that book, the History Press at the time, now it's Arcadia Publishing because they bought the History Press, they wanted a book on just one story. So I didn't really want to do that because I just chop up stories like the Mobster book. That's how I wanted to write, just little short stories, because my brain don't want to think of a whole long story. I like to write like Sergeant Joe Friday and Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am. That's my kind of writing. And it's loaded with facts. It's loaded with people. Well, that book, I took a trip out to Amish country and stayed at the Oak Ridge Inn. So I could sit out there and write that book. Because I didn't know how to start it. I didn't know what to do with it. That's when, once I got out there and sat down, I started writing that book, and I didn't quit. And it took like two or 3 weeks to write it. But the research is always a lot more. So this next book, I just get so much information in my head, and I can't wait to get it down on paper. Like, that's a relief. So all these murders I plan to do, unsolved murders, this is going to be a real chore. So I know the people involved want that book out, but it's going to take a little bit.
Susan, we have an online question. Someone viewing you
Okay.
online.
Okay.
How did law enforcement determine the perpetrator of the Mill murders?
Oh, geez. Okay. Okay. There's some people I didn't put up here that were involved. It wasn't just the sheriff and the police department and those detectives and everybody that wanted it done, wanted it solved. The Wheeling Steel Police were also involved. So a couple of their Wheeling Steel cops saw him one night skulking around. So they followed him. And he actually lived down the street from the chief of the Wheeling Steel Police. And But anyway, these two guys, C.H. Bailey and Paul Fawnow were their names. They followed him, and they are the ones who actually caught him. Fawnow actually had a brother on the police department at the time, so he was probably maybe a little sharper. Yeah.
My sisters and I have a cousin that was murdered in Lansing, in the Melody Manor. That is unsolved. I want to ask you, how many murders are still unsolved? I mean, are there, percentage-wise, do you have any idea?
No. In Steubenville, there's Jefferson County, rather, there's way too many. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And we know a few locally that are still unsolved.
And that's another thing I was going to ask. Why doesn't somebody here write about Belmont County murders? Y'all pop up in my research all the time. Your county has its own stories. The Black Hand originated down here and made its way up there to Jefferson County. Which, if you don't know what the Black Hand is, it's the mob, and they're going to blow your house up if you don't pay them protection money. Blah blah blah. You know.
What is a dry officer?
A prohibition officer. They called them dry officers because they didn't want you to drink, and they got shot quite a bit.
Research on one of these unresolved murders, and it goes way back in so many years. There's nobody alive that was associated with that. How do you solve that?
Now they're doing a lot of solving with DNA, but who's going to pay for it? You know, I mean, if there's a descendant in the family that wants to do that, I can tell you right now, Steubenville's not going to do that.
How expensive is it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, but that CC Moore that does that's one of my idols right now. I just love her. She's solving those 50-year-old murders right, left, and sideways. And the cops are loving her because it's making heroes out of them for solving these murders, because they're working right alongside her. If that could be my retirement job, helping her do that, I would love that. I would love that. But yeah, if anybody wants to write about Belmont County, I keep trying to recruit people to write for the History Press or Arcadia Publishing. I don't see anything out there for Belmont County. Like I said, you have quite a history here. I mean, I found things in Yorkville, Tiltonsville, and I try to cram them all in that Monster, Methods, and Murder book. And but there's still more that I didn't get to. And I like I say, I'm dreading doing these unsolved murders of Jefferson County, this book, because I'll have to write 3 or 4 volumes because I can only put 45,000 words in a book for the History Press. That's all they want. Their books are small. They want to keep them small and loaded with pictures. So, yeah, I mean, if you're interested in writing, I belong to the Tri-State Writers Society. We meet the second Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock. And right now we're going to meet. We didn't have a steady place, so we outgrew bookmarks. That's where we were meeting, and we were meeting at a bed and breakfast that the leader of our group, her bosses own a bed and breakfast, but once that starts getting booked, we can't meet there. So we're starting to meet at the main library in downtown Steubenville on South 4th Street, and next Tuesday is our meeting at 6 o'clock. If you want to go to the library, we'll help you write a book. Mm-hmm. You could tell me a name right now, and I'll go home tonight and I'll spend the next week looking it up to see what it's all about, because that's what I do. It's crazy. If you love genealogy and doing your family tree, I mean, I have 57,000 people on my family tree. And that's doing the people that married into my family, my aunts and uncles. I'll do their lines, the ones that married into the family. I mean, I'm obsessed. I got to go to like Genealogy Anonymous or something. Yeah, I mean, seriously. So, yeah, if anybody wants to come to a writers group meeting, you're more than welcome. Yeah.
You ever get nervous digging into some of this stuff?
No,
No?
my mother did. My mother told me to knock it off. She's
Stir up some dirt that no one wants.
well, she didn't want me getting hurt, but I was a police officer. She told me don't do that. I was a corrections officer at the prison, all male prison, now a sexual prison for sexual offenders. That's what it is. But she didn't want me to do that. If I listened to my mother, I'd be home with probably 10 babies or something and 100 grandchildren by now. But I didn't listen to her. When I graduated the academy out in Orient, when I graduated the Corrections Academy, my little mother, who did not want to drive, she was littler than me. She didn't want to drive out of Steubenville. I looked, I'm probably going to cry here. I looked out into the audience at my corrections graduation. She had driven herself to Orient.
That's cool.
And Warden Tate at the time, who was a wonderful man, he was huge. He put his arm around her and he said, she's part of our family now and we're going to take care of her. So my mom was okay after that. So, yeah. So it was a career. I learned a lot. And you know that old saying that your people come into your life for a reason? Okay. I always wondered why all those convicts came into my life. I don't know. But
Did you get a lot of proposals?
being a police officer helped me out there. There's people that fell for them right, left, and sideways out there and ended up getting walked out. But they knew better with me. And that helped me because my thought is you pick a side. You're on one side of that fence or you're on the other. So, no, I probably cussed them out all the time. But I had the nickname, I can't even remember now. Honey Badger. Honey Badger. There's a little officer out there now, they call him Badger, but I was Honey Badger. And that was my inmate Porter told me that when he was cleaning around my area. And he said, I watched they're big on PBS, watching the PBS channel and animals and stuff. And they had watched the Honey Badger, about the life about the Honey Badger. And he said, that reminded me of you when you go off on somebody and everything. He said, so I'm calling you Honey Badger. I says, I will wear that moniker with pride. So, but yeah, it was an experience out there. I can't say I loved it and I ain't never going to go back, but I do miss a lot of people out there and I wonder what they're going through today out there. I know everybody's shorthanded. The cops are shorthanded. The teachers, healthcare, well, the prisons are shorthanded too. And I just want to give a shout out to all the corrections officers and the teachers and medical people out at the prison, because corrections officers are a part of law enforcement they're the forgotten bunch during law enforcement week. I mean, we had our own corrections week, but in the grand scheme of things, corrections officers are often forgotten and they see stuff that other people don't understand and couldn't fathom. And I just want to give them much respect because it's tough. It's tough. You earn your money out there. So there's no more questions. I'm done.
you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll be selling books here.
Do us the great pleasure. We have two drawings. All right. The first drawing is the blue ticket for your door prize. Oh, wait, we got one more coming. Two more, probably the winners. Probably the winners. Usually the winners are last. We cheat. She'll take us in. She knows people.
I'm retired. I'm retired.
All right, blue coupon, 9532361. Anyone? Let me read it again. 9532361.
It's close to ours.
Should I pull another one? Yeah, okay. One more time. Okay. How about 9532326? 9532326. All right, we have a winner. We have another Carol. Oh, we have two?
We got a 6-1. She found her ticket.
Oh, we got two. Okay.
Just have her. She
Okay.
was first.
Okay. All right, we'll get that for you. And then,
Back
oh,
here found her 6.
and then the next one is for the basket.
She found her ticket.
Okay. So this one is the white ticket for the basket, and it's 660-9642. 660-9642. All right. You got a winner? All right, we'll get you your basket. Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you, Susan. And we do have books available, so let's give her a nice round of applause. Thank you so much.